this morning, we'll start with the props out to the side. You need a fair bit of room in front, or at least shuffle a bit further down the mat. We're going to start in a prone position. So I'm going to take the feet out deliberately wider towards the outside edges of the mat. Just turn the toes in a little bit so the heels can roll out. And it's a prone version of Shavasana. So I'm going to let my hands come underneath my forehead. We're going to be here for a few minutes. I want to wriggle around a little bit through the hips, through the shoulders, and across the belly as well, just to kind of let everything settle into place, without being too specific. And then we just work on letting ourselves sink in. Feeling gravity moving through the body in a slightly different way, especially to how we stand. If you have any reasons why you don't want to lie on the front of your body, maybe it makes you feel a bit claustrophobic, by all means take a standard version of Shavasana on the back. It's just really an attempt to mix it up and to get an opportunity to loosen those shoulders and the hip and glute muscles as well. You can kind of feel your butt spreading out a little bit as you let go. Find that as the minutes tick by that your body starts to change shape and you can sink a little deeper into the mat. So there's areas where it may not have been obvious you're holding tension. Start to let go a little bit. Then we have just a few minutes to let the body react. Lift the head gently. Take the hands out in front so that they're just a little wider than the shoulders. We want the shoulders fairly relaxed, so we're not pulling the fingers as far forward as we can. We're just taking the hands out, straight arms. And then we'll take a side bend over towards the right. And let the head drop, so I'm looking towards that side as well. So lying down side bends really do restrict the amount of manipulation you're able to bring into the spine. So it really works laterally rather than sort of dropping the chest in or rolling the hips around underneath. Give everything very flat to the floor. Just take a minute and then we'll slowly lift the head and take the side bend to the opposite side. And just noticing how the shoulders feel, how we feel down the side of the body. Is it easier to move to one side than it is the other? It's not changing anything, just really observing, becoming aware of how our body feels. Just picking up on those cues where there might be some tight spots. And we'll work around the body today in the postures, and obviously if you know that you're carrying some tightness, you can not stretch quite so deeply maybe on one side as you do the other, just using a little bit of instinct to work with your body and how it is today. Bring the hands back to the center, and I'm going to bring the hands now underneath the chin and walk the feet back into the center line. And I'm going to take my right knee up to the side, 90 degrees to the body, so it gets strong, opening the groins and the hip, and then allow the shin to extend out as well to the side. So coming into a half frog. Toes pointing out. It's 90 degrees. You can always have a little check, but be careful with your neck if you do so. Again, try and let the shoulders release, and obviously you'll be able to feel one front hip bone across the top of the waist touching the ground. See how close you can get the other one to sink down to the floor. Again, just noticing whether the body pretty much stays where it was, or whether it allows itself to move around at all. We'll slowly bring that heel back towards the center line and slide the knee along the floor. So we don't lift it, we just slide it back in. One leg against the other, a little wriggle through the hips, and then we start to exhale, left leg out. It's nice 90 degrees. I do find it in my body easier to turn the head to the same side and taking the knee out. But if you're watching the video, you'll notice that I've just got my chin on the back of my hands. It's purely so I can keep an eye on the clock. So we don't stay down here forever. I was doing this by myself. I'll definitely be turning the head. Bring the feet back on. Slide that leg back. Wriggle out the hips. And take the hands down towards the bottom of the ribs, shoulders back. As I exhale, press into the floor and lift up. And bring my fingers in towards the front of the mat. Hands underneath the hips. Just a gentle round of cat-cow. I'm going to start easy, small, and just see how the body feels. So it's quite strange when you've gone from those prone positions and the spine has had a chance to flatten out. It's quite a big effort to then bring them back into flexion and extension in the spine. It's like they're starting from a different place than they would normally if you just come from standing down onto all fours. The spine would have been kind of used to gravity in a different way. It does make a difference. Once you start to get a little bit of juice into the spine, you can press into the hands and down through the shins a little more. With your breath gently. So if it feels right to get a little deeper, if you can feel a bit more stretch around the back of the shoulders, great. But if you just want to keep it gentle, that's obviously very good as well. Now from here, we're going to come into child's pose. So I'm going to keep the knees relatively close together and sit back onto the heels. And I'm going to take the head to the ground and see if I can bring the hands down towards the toes. Now, if the head doesn't come to the floor, you could bring the block or a brick underneath the forehead just to raise the floor up a little bit. We want to breathe into the lower belly, so we're activating that diaphragm as much as we can. and feel a little bit of ebb and flow through the lower spine into sort of the thoracic area where we get the diaphragm creating a bit of a lift for us. So using our breath to stretch our spine. So feeling a little bit of tightness in the top of the glutes as well, so they're getting a bit of a stretch out in this pose as well. I'll take the hands forwards again. And let myself lift up onto all fours again. You can take a little breath from there. Just walk the hands forwards. And come into melting heart. But I want it to sort of more strict version where I don't collapse into this completely. I want a straight line between the hands, the shoulders, and the hips. Just press the shins into the floor. So there's as much effort pressing down into the hands as there is in the abdominal muscles to lift me up. And then whilst I'm here, I'm going to try and broaden the shoulders out. So pressing down and widening the shoulders, get the shoulder blades as far apart as I can. Takes a little bit of conscious movement. It's not a sort of a natural reaction to this position. I'll take a last breath here. And then just walk fingers back in. So I'm almost coming into child's pose. I continue lifting the body up until I'm in this sort of adapted hero's pose. I'll bring the hands together, interlace, and have the forearms touching, so I can just roll the wrists around a little bit as well. And go in both directions. And then we'll start to wake the shoulders up a little bit as well as we shake those hands out. So drawing some nice big circles here. Feel the muscles across the front of the chest starting to open. Getting familiar with the feeling of squeezing the shoulder blades together. And rolling them around. We're using a little bit of flexion and extension in the spine as well as we do this, so don't worry about holding that back. Just shake that out, and then bring the hands back into the very front of the mat. So I've got my bricks and blocks towards the front end of the mat. And from this all fours position, I'm just tucking the toes underneath and coming into my down dog. So just checking the hands flat to the ground, the feet are hip distance apart and parallel, and just taking a little walk. Doesn't have to be walked out. If you want to take a scissor, you can do as well. So whatever feels good in the first down dog in the day. So we'll take the advantage of scissoring the leg. We're going to take the right leg up and try and keep the hips square to the ground and the shoulders square. And bring the foot back down gently. The same with the opposite leg. Bring that down. Just watching where I'm placing the feet as well, so that they land in the same place that they lifted from. Right leg lifts. Power left. So the speed you're moving at might be slightly different to me. I'm trying to keep the leg straight. We're pressing out through the heel. The foot is flexed, and toes towards the knee. And bringing that back in. So we'll start to work into the butt a little more. Lift up, and then come forwards into a plank. Three-legged version. And then press it back to down dog. Bring the foot to the floor. Scissor the right. Come forwards. Three-legged plank. Take it back, down dog, bring your foot down. Again to the left, coming forwards, pushing back, bring the foot to the ground. Right leg comes high, forwards into the plank, back, it comes down. We'll do one more to each side. As we bring the feet down, I'm going to walk the hands in towards the toes. So coming into my forward bend. So hopefully my feet are still parallel, aligned, and hip distance apart. Keep the fingertips on the floor, head hanging. Allow yourself to have a little wriggle around in this pose as well, if that feels good. Nothing wrong with being completely still. So it depends a little bit on how your lower back feels. So if it feels tender or it's stiff, definitely stay still. Keeping a good, decent bend in the knees as well. Just getting used to drawing the belly in and feeling the weight of your body hanging over your hips. And take a last breath here and bring the hands onto the hips, shoulders and elbows back, draw the body forwards and let ourselves lift. We're going to come into some standing balance work, so bring the hands in towards the heart. Take a moment to breathe. I shift the weight of my body into my left leg and slowly take the right knee as high as I can, and then do my best to take my fingers around the front of the shin, draw the knee a little higher. And I'm going to release, but I'm going to keep the heel in towards the butt. So as the knee goes down, take my right hand down to find my right ankle. And then bring the thighs back together again. Let's press the tailbone down towards the floor and keep it bone forwards a little bit. Keeping the ribs drawn down towards the hips, extend the left arm up towards the sky. So standing quad stretch. And bring the hands gently back down and the feet to the floor. Just realign those feet, hip distance apart, parallel, and stay in the heart. We shift the weight to the right leg. Start to lift that left foot away from the ground and then the knee high. So really concentrating on keeping the hips and chest pointing in the same direction as the standing foot. I squeeze the knee as high as I possibly can so that I've got more chance of bringing myself forwards without leaning too much into the pose. Draw the knee high. And then again, release, keep the heel in towards the bottom. Allow yourself to get that ankle, that left hand, draw the thighs together, knee down, tilt the pelvis forwards, left arm rises, right arm rises. Release from there. If you come to the floor and then hip distance apart and parallel again, now you start to hinge from the hips into that forward fold. Fingers towards the front end of the mat. Back into that down dog. And take a breath from there. Take the right leg to the sky and the scissor. Draw the knee in towards the chest and bring the foot through between the hands. Take a little breath from there. Keeping the back knee away from the floor. I'm going to try and have this hip on the right, kind of lining up with the knee joint in terms of height from the floor. Take the right hand forwards and take it up into windmills. I'm going to draw the hand towards the ceiling, then towards the hip. Turn the chest back down to the floor. Draw the hand forwards and lift up. Now, whilst we're doing this, you can't obviously see our heel behind us in the leg that's straight. We want to press out through the heel and try and keep the heel pointing towards the sky. That stops the hips from rolling around underneath. It means that we get more twist out of the spine. That rotation. Come up for the last time. Take a little breath. Hands to the floor. Come up onto the fingertips. We'll drop the back heel onto the center line, ready for warrior two. Bring the hands alongside the body. Get a little bit of lift. Ease our way up with that left hand. Just feel the groins open out a little bit more. Get used to the idea of weight pressing down into the floor and the floor pressing back to support us. Nice open of the chest to the side. And obviously being careful that this knee stays over the center toe. Collapsing in. Now take a little breath from there. We'll straighten the front leg slowly. And then drop the front hip down a little bit so the hips feel like they're moving towards the back of the mat. When the hip joint is taking that stress on board, you can lengthen out. Come into your triangle pose. So we're going to bring the hand down low on the shin. Take the top arm up towards the sky. Open the chest as much as you can towards the ceiling. Try to look towards the side edge of the mat rather than to the floor. I would look up towards the ceiling, but there's a very bright light up there. I've done that before and blinded myself and then fallen over. So forgive me for not taking my head further. Side view is perfectly okay for me today. Apart from that, I get a nice view of Ganesh staring at me in the windowsill. Take a little breath and we'll soften the front knee. Bring ourselves back into warrior two. And float the arms immediately towards the sky in slow motion. Bring them down into the inside of this front foot. We'll walk the hands around to the long side of the mat, turning the toes in the heels out. A little adjustment. You can soften the knees if that feels a lot in your hamstrings, but you're able to keep the feet pressing down into the floor and the legs a little straighter. That's good. We'll take a breath from here. Try to actively press the tailbone up towards the sky and the feet down. Allow yourself to hinge from the hips. Fold over. Just let anybody find where it wants to move to. I'm going to take a few breaths here. I'm just trying to keep the weight even in the feet, so not too much in the toes, not too much in the heels. Pressing down through the feet, if they're getting their thighs working, just makes them feel a little bit safer. We press into the hands and lift up halfway, walk ourselves around to the front of the mat. We step back into our down dog and scissor the left leg. Draw the knee in towards the chest and bring that foot through into the lunge. Take a breath, make sure the right hand is planted. Then the left hand comes forwards and up into the twist. Inhale around. Strong awareness of that back heel and the back thigh lengthening out. And come back onto fingertips into lunge. Drop the back heel in again. Ready for warrior two. Gentle lift halfway. Right arm comes forwards. Cartwheel ourselves up. Any adjustments you need to make? Feet wise where you are on the mat. And again, we slowly start to straighten that front leg. Drop into the front hip gradually. Feel the transfer of the weight in the joints. Then allow ourselves to lengthen out fully. Hand comes low. So palm lifts to 12 o'clock. Roll the chest round a little more. Notice if your bottom is hanging out towards the left side, you might want to press the hips towards the right a little. Bring them more underneath you. And that makes it easier to open the chest. Feet still firmly pressing down. Soften the front knee. Slowly come back up into warrior two. Float the arms high again. Bring them down inside of this front foot. Walk fingers around, long side of the mat. Turn the toes in, heels out. Adjust the length of your stance for your body. Keep the spine nice and long. Draw the belly in a little bit. Now soften the knees just a fraction, just like a micro bubble. And then see if you can take one hand behind your back and then the other as well, so holding yourself up. Interlacing the hands, take a breath here and hinge again from the hips and let ourselves sink. And then squeeze the shoulder blades together a little bit, keeping them away from the ears. We're going to lift the hands towards the sky and see if we can then float over to that long side of the mat. And ease the hands back down gently to the floor. And so we'll lift up halfway and walk the fingers around to the front end of the mat. We'll take a breath and we'll step into the forward fold this time. Now, whilst we're here, we can start to play around with the blocks. So we're just trying to find a nice height to work with. I know that one brick and two bricks and one block gives me a nice height, but when I press the heel of the hand down and lift up, not only am I able to get a nice long flat back, but I can open up the back of my legs easily. So I want the hands more or less underneath my chest at this point. And then I'm going to focus on my feet, which are parallel and hip distance apart. I'm going to soften the left knee a little and slide my right foot back, trying to keep it that hip distance apart until I'm on the tip of my big toe. And then I'm going to slide the heel down towards the floor, trying to keep the front leg straight. I have to adjust the hands back just a fraction. They're no longer underneath my chest. In fact, they're ahead of my head. But it's a nice feeling of lengthening out. You can feel the body kind of lengthening from the hip to the shoulder. I'm trying to keep the hips square to the front of the mat as well. So just pressing down through those legs in this pyramid pose, keeping the belly drawn in a little bit, keeping the head in line with where I think the spine is. It's obviously a very big stretch in both legs. Take a little breath from there, and then soften the front knee back over the ankle. So the back heel lifts that a little bit. Draw the chest forwards a little more, and then step it in to that beginning posture we had. The forward bend with the hands on the block. Set the feet up again, and then take the weight into a slightly softened right leg. Slide the left foot back, just until we're on the tippy toe. And then carefully roll the heel in. You're going to feel the stretch, so if you need to adjust, which sometimes you do, you can. Move the toes around a little bit. Both legs straight, feet pointing parallel towards the front of the mat. Soften the front knee, back over the ankle, the back heel, and step it in. Same position. And take a little breath from there. Allow ourselves to just soften the left knee and take the right foot back again. Same position we had before on the tippy toe. Only this time we're going to drop the heel in towards the center line. So we've got more of a triangle leg position. So both legs are still straight. And take a little breath from there and allow myself to take my left hand onto my left hip. And I'm going to bring it then onto the base of my spine and begin to turn my chest towards the left side. Rotating round slowly to my maximum position I can manage. And see if I can lift the left hand to 12 o'clock. Facing it. So come into a revolved triangle. I'm well supported with the bricks and blocks underneath. Still strong, still definitely feeling work happening, still feeling body shaking a little. I'll bring the hand back down onto the spine. Turn the chest very gently towards the mat. Bring the hands back onto the block. Lift the heel and bring the foot back into parallel. Soften the front knee over the ankle and step it back in. It's just like deconstructing and reconstructing. I soften the weight into the right leg. Slide the left foot back. Find the toe. Drop the heel in. Go into my triangle legs. Slowly bring the right hand onto the hip. Then feed it around gently. Find the base of the spine. So I'm opening the shoulder a little. And then allowing myself to turn the chest very slowly, gradually around. Till I've found my final point. And then see if I can take that right hand up towards the sky. Hand back to the pelvis. Allow myself to turn the chest down. Bring the hands forwards. Step slowly back into the front of the mat. I'm going to move my little pile of bricks and blocks out. Take a nice forward bend there. Fingers on the floor. Bring hands onto the hips. Soften the knees and flat back to lift. I'll take a breath there, bring the hands in towards the heart. And zigzag the toes together so the toes touch, but have still a little bit of a gap between the ankle bones. So as I bend my knees and squeeze my thighs together and sit back deep, the ankle bones don't press into each other too much. Allow yourself to take the hands out into a chair pose. You can take a breath from there, bring the hands back in, sink a little lower, take another breath, and then bring that right elbow rotating round outside of the left thigh. My best to just check my knees stay together and in line with each other. And then slowly turn the head on the side of the mat. Try and pull that top shoulder round a little bit. And slowly back into that middle position and just rotate gently round to the opposite side. Again, turning the head very carefully, sitting back into my chair, squeezing my thighs together. Back into front position. Take the hands out, extended, through the thighs to lift up. And let the hands come out wide, down to the side of the body, and towards the heart. And take a little breath there. Soften the knees over the toes again. I'm going to take the weight into the right leg, lifting the left, and cross that over, and see if I can wrap the foot around the back of the calf, or just squeeze the thighs together tightly. Oops. Taking the arms out. Let's see if I can come into eagle pose. Left arm across, right arm over the top. Let the elbows come in towards the body, bring the palms towards the face. And so to release back out once you've arrived. Untangle the leg, but keep the foot raised. Bring your hands in towards your heart. Kick that left foot back into a lunge. Fine placement. Draw the body up high into a high crescent. Allow yourself to take your hands towards the sky. We'll take a breath there and then bring the hands gently back down to the floor. Step it through into the front of the mat. Toes come together again into the forward fold. Soften the knees and the flat back to lift. We'll take the hands high and in towards the heart. And soften the knees a bit. Take the weight into the left foot. Right leg lifts, crosses over, wraps around. Arms extend out wide. Right arm across. Left arm over the top. Elbows come in. Hands towards the face. Release back out wide with the hands. Untangle the legs. Hands in towards the heart. Lean forwards a little bit as you keep the leg back. Land it as far back as you can. Roll into the ball of the foot. Allow yourself to bring the hands high to high crescent. And bring the hands gently back down to the floor. Take a little breath and step it into that forward bend again. Toes come together. And hands into the hips. Let those lift. Take the hands high again. Little back. Towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Bring the right foot back, dropping the heel in. Heel to heel alignment for warrior two. Hands alongside the body. And taking the right hand forwards and lifting up into my warrior two. Straightening the front leg, a drop into the hip, lengthen out into my triangle pose. Inhale, one breath. Soften the front knee as I exhale back into my warrior two. Take the hands high, down to the floor, on the inside of the straight thigh. Walk the fingers round, turn the toes in, heels in. Body long, and bring the hands behind the back and into this. Lengthen the chest, hinge the hips, drop down, swing the arms slowly over, alongside of the mat. Take a breath. Bring the hands back to the hips, lengthen the body. Fingertips to the floor, find support. Walk around into your lunge front of the mat. Step back into the forward bend. Hands onto the hips. Hands high. In towards the heart. Exhale down to the floor. Left leg back and drop the heel in. Hands alongside the body. Left arm lifts us up. Warrior two. Extend through that front leg to straighten, drop into the hip, lengthen out. So I triangle pose. One breath here. Soften the knee as you exhale, back up. Warrior two. Inhale the hands high. Exhale down to the floor. Pull the fingers round, long side, breathing in. Exhale, hands behind the back. One more breath to lengthen the body. And forward as you exhale, letting the hands follow. Bring the hands onto the hips. Lengthen the body. Bring the fingers to the floor for support. Walk them round to the front of the mat into your lunge. We're going to step straight back into a down dog. And then come forwards into plank. Take a little breath. And then the elbows gently in to the body, coming down to the floor. Bring the elbows forwards, interlace the fingers, have them about shoulder distance apart. So an adapted Sphinx pose. Broaden the shoulders out, draw the belly in, press the thighs down. Heels roll out, toes in, chest lift. And then let ourselves come down. I'm going to allow myself to bring my chin onto the back of my hands, elbows out wide. I'll take a little breath, draw the belly in. I'm going to press the right thigh down and lift the left thigh up, keeping the leg long and straight. And then exhale that down. Do the same with the opposite side. So press down left, lift the right thigh. And then let it down. Do 3 more each side. Left. And down. Right. And down. 2 more. Left. And down. Right. And down. Last 2. 1 each side. Left. And down. And right. And down. And bring the hands Down towards the bottom of your ribs, elbows tucked in tight. Low cobras, inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Back again. 3 more. Lengthening those legs away, bootlaces into the ground. Weighting the hands for our low cobras. Last lift. We'll take that to gecko pose, taking the elbows towards the sky as the fingers move out into a press up position off of the mat. Onto the fingertips, squeeze the shoulder blades away and down. Exhale to lift. This time we do press into the fingers. I want to feel a little bit of compression and some lengthening in the spine, not too much pinching. That's causing you to sort of stop breathing in any way. When you are trying more than you need to, you're compressing your spine a little too much. So use that breath as a guide to temper your ambitions. As we come down, we'll take the right heel in towards the body and bring the hand back. And then we'll bring the left heel in, take the left hand back, just find the ankles. I'm going to press the thighs down towards the floor and try and lengthen the knees away whilst I hold the heels as close to my buttocks as I can, keeping the body flat to the ground. Having established a connection with the thighs into the floor, I'm going to keep that working. Allow myself to lift the chest away from the floor and press the shins away. Still trying to keep it connected to the ground, pressing down, lengthening away. Just using a little bit of work with the shins to hold me up a little bit more. Last breath here. And then we'll press the feet towards the ceiling, so lifting those thighs away from the ground. Last breath here. Back down to the floor. Release the feet to the ground. I'm going to roll onto my spine, keeping my head the same end of the mat. As I do, I'll bring the feet in towards my bottom and allow myself to take my arms out wide in line with my chest and shoulders. I'll take a little breath and shimmy the hips towards my right. And let the legs go down towards the left. And try and relax the hips, the lower back and the belly, and obviously the chest and the shoulders. And breathe as deep and as slow as you need to. Bring the knees back again. Shimmy the hips the opposite way. Legs move across, down towards the floor. take a little breath from here, and then roll gently onto the side of my body. Use the hands into the floor and lift up. I'll swing the feet towards the front of the mat and take one of the blocks and just place that underneath my butt. A little lift, lengthen the legs out, feet together into Dandasana, so sitting up nice and tall and just drawing the flesh very gently around those sitting bones. And bring the left foot underneath out towards the right hip, so the left knee points forwards, and I'll bring the right foot across. I'm going to sit up nice and tall, so tilt the pelvis forwards, and then just draw the left arm through in front of the right leg so I can turn towards the right side. So keeping it very soft in the shoulders today. And release from there. Lengthen the legs out. Cross gently over to the opposite side, so just mirroring what we've already done. See from there. Taking the legs out in front. Give them a little shake, and then I'm going to bring a heel into the groin and bring the other heel into the groin. So shins flat to the floor. If you need to cross the ankles, then fine. Just make it a little bit difficult to do the next step. But you can work with what you've got. Got the advantage of bringing off the block as well. That helps. We'll take the fingers forwards and lengthen the spine. And allow yourself to just kind of lift up and roll over the front edge of your sitting bones, and then allow yourself to fold forwards so the spine can stay nice and long when you bring yourself down as low as you can, which may be elbows, maybe it'll be higher, maybe chest flat to the floor, maybe like me, just close to the ground, but head on the back of the palms of the hands. Relax the shoulders out a little bit. Pull the belly in a fraction. Try and press your tailbone very lightly towards the back of the mat. Just make a bit of space. So very subtle and stretch in that direction. Use the hands to press down, draw the belly in, and exhale up. And just make a note of which leg you've got in front. Take them out. Bring that first leg back in again first, so you cross over the opposite way, and then just be a little more aware of, as you move in, that this might not be your sort of dominant way of sitting, so you might need to wriggle it around a little bit more or not come as low. Just accommodate as you need to come back into the second side. As you settled again, just holding the belly in a little, sending the tailbone back. Press down into the floor as you draw the belly in and exhale again. And lengthen the legs out and move gently into Shavasana. So Take the block out to the corner edges of the mat. I'm going to raise the knees and the hands behind, chin towards the chest, and then use the spine, the abdominals, and the shoulders all together. Bring myself down nicely. Allow that heel to slide out one leg at a time. Move the blocks out of the way so you're not actually being impeded by anything touching your body other than the mat behind you. And wriggling the spine out as you close your eyes, palms facing out, let everything sink into the mat, layer by layer, breath by breath. Begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Breathe a little deeper and wriggle the wrists and ankles. Use that energy to stretch out. It feels like it's nourishing for you. And we'll slide the heels back in. One leg at a time. Keep it simple and easy for the spine, the nervous system, and then we'll let a leg at a time come in towards the body for the simplest and gentlest of hugs. And yourself to rock around a little bit on the spine if that feels good. And then we'll gently roll onto our right side as we take a breath in. And use the exhale to press the hands down into the floor, smoothly move from the side back up to sit. Hands in towards the heart. Sit tall, close the eyes and take a deeper breath. the exhale, gradually letting your chin drop, drawing the belly in. Allow that simple bow to form. Sign of gratitude for our breath, our body, our mind. Inhaling to lift the spine, finally the head, and the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. See you on the mat again soon.